Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tesla Life number 150. Yes, we have made it to 150. Amazing. Here we are on the 27th of May, otherwise known as Scrub Day, from what we heard today. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Welcome our panelists to the show. Mr. Casey Green joins us from the DC area. How are you today, sir?
Happy birthday, Dad.
A shout out, special shout out.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Mr. Patrick Connor joins us from the West Coast in Oregon. How are you today, sir?
I'm good. I was wondering if it's Scrub Day, like Boxing Day or some Canadian holiday I didn't know about. And
right.
I figured out, Scrub, the launch. Okay, that's too bad. Yep, so hello to all the Tesla Life viewers out there. We are trying to help bring in the fossil fuel-free future here on the Tesla Life. Welcome.
Man, you nailed that this week. That was fabulous.
1 out of 10 ain't bad.
Also joining us from the West Coast, bottom left, Mr. Russell Frost from San Diego area. How are you today, sir?
I am absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much for asking me to come on.
Well, Russell's done a video that I think most of us would be interested in if you have not seen it already, but we'll get to that. Opening news of the day, of course, is SpaceX and their launch with Bob and Doug. That was supposed to happen today at 4:33 Eastern. It did not happen. Cape Canaveral had some weather issues, and that was that's what scrubbed the mission, basically. And something that they talked about during the broadcast, which I didn't think about too much, was you're not really caring if the weather has to clear up over the rocket. Obviously, you can't have a lightning strike or too much rain falling or other problems. But also, it has to clear the search area for the other people that would respond to an emergency. If something was to happen and they had to go get the astronauts prematurely, or they were shot off the top of the rocket for safety, you have to be able to get the emergency personnel out to the multiple landing zones in order to do that. So that's something that I didn't really think about until today, that there is a reason that even if the sky looked a little bit okay over the rocket, there were other areas that were going to be affected by the weather.
Yeah, you don't want to abort into a tropical storm or launch the rocket and set off a lightning storm.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know what that means? Into a hurricane. Oh, no.
Yeah. But of course, you know what that means. That's extra rides in the Model X NASA shuttle service.
Yeah.
25 miles an hour.
ISS-bound license plate. So someone out there in the Tesla Life has to get that vanity plate.
I gotta believe that someone's. For those of you that watch us on Twitter, Facebook, or here, send us a picture when you get that new NASA sticker you put on your white Model X, because we're sure that someone's going to do it at some point.
Sure. Or the worm font. Love.
Or as they're saying in NASA now, the worm's back, because of course they've made the NASA logo the big worm for the middle two letters that they have put on the back of the shuttle service vehicle as well. I didn't catch it, guys, but there was two vehicles that went out, two Model X's. Did one astronaut go in each vehicle?
So that answers the question that I had. Both astronauts went in the same vehicle.
Okay.
And since NASA's only going to take 4, we can only guess that perhaps that for the next mission that the Model X's will take all the astronauts, and then the support personnel will be in another vehicle, or maybe another Model X.
Okay.
Very cool.
We will have to see.
I was also intrigued by the APC having a minigun on top there. That was they had an issue with that in the past. I'm not that old. I'm sorry.
Explain that, AC. What do you mean?
The APC that was following the convoy, it had a turret on top.
Ah, okay, all right. So this was like a military vehicle that was there for security, right? Of some sort.
Some sort. I guess
just like, shooting seagulls. I'm sure. They're close to the water. Got to make sure those seagulls are not bothering the astronauts.
It is Florida.
It is Florida. As they were
standard
going on the
route.
route, there were like 4 cars that took the off ramp, headed in the direction they were going, and like eventually, their escort, they had a cop car pull off and block it each time until the astronauts passed at that point. But the first, like before the convoy arrived, like 4 cars got in front. I was like, wow, tight security.
Tight security, I'm sure. Absolutely. But Tim Dodd, the everyday astronaut, if you haven't seen it already, did an interview with Elon and with the NASA administrator Jim. Last name escapes me. Breitenstein. Very, very good interview. Lots of interesting facts they spoke about during the 25 or 20-minute interview. So if you haven't watched that already, check that out. It was interesting to see. Well, on to some Tesla news. We wanted to share that recently that some work has now been happening at Giga Berlin. And what we've got now is, we'll just share this. We now have some pilings that are in the ground. So that they're doing some, actually, most likely this is some sort of a test with the land itself, but they have put a number of pilings in a pattern in a couple areas of Giga Berlin. And we do understand that there is still some, permits that they're waiting for in order to proceed with some additional groundwork, which would be the burying of some pipes, trenching, and getting ready for the foundation that they've already mapped out with gravel for groundwater, collection or mitigation of groundwater. So there is a pad of gravel along with some roads that are in place now, and are waiting for some permits in order to move forward with some additional pylons.
That first photo you showed us looked a little Stonehenge-esque.
Yes, that's what I was thinking too. Yeah, Tesla Stonehenge.
It's got the shadows going. The moon shines through on the first day of summer, in a certain direction.
Spells out the name of Giga 5.
Lights up the big T in the background. You never see it until the first day of summer. Yes.
Right, they're going to have a window in the underground rave room that shines in at a certain day.
So is there really going to be an underground? It would seem that they would pull a Giga Nevada in China, Giga Beijing, where there is no underground, and these pilings just go to deep as they need to go.
I do not have the plans. I do not know what they will be doing or not be doing. And of course, when we saw Giga Shanghai start up, there were literally dozens of piling machines that were all working together. Yeah. In this particular, as we showed last week, a week ago, there was a single piling machine that was on site that did these dozen or so pilings. So not quite sure what the underground of this location will look like at all.
Strong unions. You can never tell when he's joking or not.
No,
I guess you can.
No,
but it's difficult sometimes to tell when he's joking.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Test Keela, anybody?
He could have been serious about that.
Right, it could still happen. Yeah, I thought the Boring Company was a joke.
Yeah, that sounded like a joke.
Russell might argue it still is.
He's keeping his
but it's now just a lot more elaborate.
I got some Vegas money on it.
Our next story from Teslarati talks about the new update that's come out, and Elon had mentioned about a year ago to this point that he was going to be placing a new game in play, Fallout Shelter, and it has arrived with the update, as well as a number of improvements to the UI. Most notably, where you used to have to click on the Tesla T icon in the top center area, and then you could drag down with your fingers the some of the games like Drive on Mars and the Whoopee Cushion and other things. They've now been incorporated into the menu system. So you can go to the menu system, you can see each of them, and actually there's now a description of what each one does. So you don't have to necessarily click on it. You can understand what it is before you're clicking on it, which of course was not available previously, as well as the Santa mode, which drove some people crazy because after they got it to start, a lot of people couldn't figure out how to stop it. So they were listening to sleigh bells for like 4 months on end, trying to figure out how to turn off the sleigh bells on the turn signals. But
a really long road trip.
Oh, you got a guess. Yes, indeed.
A frunk puppy.
So
it is not a frunk puppy.
You need a frunk puppy. That would be cruel, animal cruelty. Without the frunk.
Don't leave them in there.
No, without the frunk, it would be animal cruelty.
Yes.
So these are actually separate updates. I just put a video up on 2020.16.2.1. So the whole 2020.16 series is where the toy box was removed from the Tesla T at the top of the screen. And this one, 2020.20 series, 420s, is going to be the one where we might see the Fallout shelter, or at least some people have.
Yeah.
Yeah. As for the sleigh bells, it was a really long car ride. A lot of people had to deal with it. But power cycling the car would make it stop.
Yeah, that's an extreme measure. It's got to be another way.
Oh, you say ho 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 again.
Okay, do it again and they shut off.
Yeah. But now you can just push the button and say turn it off.
That's right. A lot easier. It follows all the other, parameters to shut things off. So
it does.
That's good.
One comment I made during my video was I would have preferred to see them Tesla phase this in, which technically they did. They added the toy box to the menu next to the games, but the kind of phase in that would have made sense from a user standpoint would have been that on this version, perhaps when you slide it down, it tells you to go down below, just like maybe a picture of where to go find it, instead of just deleting it. Yeah, this is efficient as a programmer, but it was totally jarring. Like I wasn't the only one I saw try and say, oh yeah, here's the new toy box and here's the old one, and then there's nothing there except
it's gone. Yeah. One of the other improvements that have happened is with the Century mode in Tesla Cam. It now gives you the ability to format your drive right in the car. So if you're not great with computers and you've had maybe somebody else make the USB stick or the SSD drive for you, now you can do that yourself in the car with the formatting ability right there at the car. So that's certainly a plus.
Yeah, the one caveat to that is you have to close the Tesla Cam viewer software, or you'll just sit there and do nothing. I've got 30 minutes of video. Just go watch that if you want the in-depth. But if you have the Tesla Cam viewer software up and it's playing, it will say, oh, you can't format and watch at the same time, but it won't give you an error. It'll just kind of sit there.
It just sits there and lets it spin.
Yeah. So close the software, then hit format. It takes like 5 seconds on my SSD, so maybe a little bit longer on some of the slower drives. And you don't have to remember how to properly case the drive. You don't have to worry about whether your computer can do FAT32 anymore if your drive is too big. It's just one button and done. Is what they should have done to begin with.
Good point.
Right. Well, it makes sense that this was not something they had planned from the beginning. It was a feature request, and they've been, okay, here's the minimum you need to get it out. Let's do that. And then people use it, and then it just keeps getting better and better. And this is yet another example of it becoming much more usable.
Yeah, and it wasn't unworkable. I mean, they could have left it like it was, so this was nice. It's just that this would have been a cool thing to have closer to the beginning of all of this. And what's also cool is on your sports, your Model 3 Performance, it will give you your track mode folder as well. I haven't pulled my drive back out since I did it to see if it has a track mode folder for everybody or not.
Good point. I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
Also, the next story is about a club called Hack Club. Last week, Elon provided an interview, a live interview, with a group called Hack Club. And what they are is a group typically of students that are connected all throughout the country for computer hacking. So they got together and requested Elon come on their show. He did. They spent about an hour discussing different questions from all sorts of kids across the country. They were taking questions from coast to coast because each group, there's a local hack club in the different cities across the country, and he fielded about, it must have been 16 or 17 questions that came from the group, and they were really varied questions all over the board. But interesting enough, that there were very good questions, lots of stuff that you maybe wouldn't have thought of to ask Elon yourself. But it was interesting. Certainly got some insight to Elon and how the hack clubs work. After the interview, Elon saying during the interview he was so impressed with the questions and with the individuals on the show. He apparently donated $500,000 to the Hack Club National Organization after the show. So he was impressed and put his money where his mouth is about the group and how he felt that they were a great group of people that had some really interesting thoughts and would like them to continue what they're doing, and with his monetary donation.
Yeah, I watched the interview. It was pretty cool. The kids had some great questions for him. And like you said, they were all over the map. The one that I thought was funny was the tabs versus spaces, which is an argument I've had multiple times. And it was a
What did he say?
review.
Or did he duck it?
He had an opinion, and he was told he was wrong.
Yeah. Which I thought was the best part. You've got Elon Musk on your show, but you're still going to just, oh, no, you're wrong.
Yeah. Sometimes kids have better questions than the adults.
Yeah, exactly. Well, leading on to our next story, Patrick's got something about a dojo. What's that all about, Patrick?
So, as we've heard from Musk and from Andre Karpathy a couple times, they have something called Project Dojo, and they haven't given us a whole lot of details about it yet. So I started digging in to see what I could find, and I saw that Andre had talked about it a couple times, and the real thing that is limiting their autopilot right now is training. Training is taking a long time. So if you want to train better, stronger, faster, where do you go? A dojo. So it's a dad joke, which is perfectly appropriate, I thought. So Project Dojo is what Tesla's going to be doing to try to improve the training time for their autopilot system. And so I wrote an article here on carswithgorge.net about Project Dojo, and talked a little bit about Musk's said things like AI is an existential threat to humanity. Okay, well, why are they working on AI? So I go into the different types of AI a little bit, and then the difference between training and inference. And the cool thing here is the flywheel that they have. So you train your neural net, you deploy it, you collect disengagements, and these are potential areas where the autopilot software is getting something wrong. And certainly not all of those are going to go back into it, but they can, unless you can collect those edge cases, you can't really improve the network. You have to know where it's failing. And the fact that they have nearly 1 million cars on the road and disengagements happening every day, billions of miles each year, then they can collect this data. And that is the key. Having the right training data set is how you get a great neural network. And so the last little thing I have in here is some conjecture that Project Dojo is going to be based on a chip from a company called Cerebras. And will it? I don't know. But it is one of literally the biggest things, the biggest chips ever made. It's a wafer scale component. So these guys make a single chip that has something like 440 cores and it has, let me see, it's 56 times bigger than the biggest GPU ever made in 2019. It has 3,000 times more memory on chip and 10,000 times more memory bandwidth. So that's a heavy hitter for a supercomputer on a chip. And it would be really cool if Tesla did use that part, and we'll see. So maybe they will, maybe they won't, but that's what I think Project Dojo is.
Yeah, there was speculation that they would use the old autopilot computers as they removed them, but that turned out not to be the case.
No, they're being sold on the gray market, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. So Green the Only had suggested that there was no shadow mode, and he issued a partial retraction. He said that it appears that Tesla has identified not just his cars, but any cars that he can reach, and minimized any of the shadow campaigns that they would perform. And by cars they could reach, they mean his friends, his neighbors, anyone who comes near his shop. That's incredibly.
Wow.
Because, of course, Green the Only, being this hacker, has been reporting about what he has found through his car and through others. So you're saying that they're actually targeting who he is and who his friends are so that they can't see what they're up to. They're basically saying don't go after these vehicles because they're being monitored.
Yeah, so like they would get like a small subset of, like, if every car was told to look for traffic lights, then they might get, oh, find me 3 traffic lights this month, and everybody else might be like, every traffic light, show me every traffic light you get.
So that could almost be a disinformation campaign, couldn't it?
It was like 6 months ago saying no shadow. Yeah.
Query his for this. Everybody else gets queried something different.
Yes.
Interesting.
So that means they must have figured out who he is and where he's at.
Well, I mean, he's on his third Tesla now, so I mean, I guess it wasn't too hard for them.
Yeah, and if he steps out of line too much, his car might be bricked.
He said that he's been read into the developer program now, so they give you 1 free unbricking and a couple of other different levels of support and access, but not obviously into stuff that they don't want you to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gotta support the hacker community.
You do.
That's right. Well, Elon just supported the hacker community, didn't he?
He did.
Really?
And everybody who's found something that shouldn't have been in the car yet and published it, he said, I love the hacker community. So there we go.
We will see if that remains true. But our next story is a special story that Mr. Frost has joined us specifically to talk about. For whatever reason, Elon phoned up Russell and said, hey, take this Model 3 out for a spin and give us a review. How did that happen, Russell?
Well, Elon and I had been talking back and forth, and, I was just telling him to get his shit together, that he needs to, just cut down on the drugs and the weird Twitter thing and stuff. And he said, look, you need to chill out, leave me alone, go drive a Model Y. I know it sounds unlikely, but it's, this is like Willy Wonka, right? The most unlikely things are the true things. Is anybody buying that bullshit?
No, we're not.
No. So as it turns out, I have several friends that I used to work with at Tesla Solar who work in the new Tesla Sales and Delivery Center, which is about a quarter mile from my house. And I went by to see them. I have gone by to see them several times just to say hi and see how things are going and all of that. And one of them said, you should take a test drive. And the thought didn't even occur to me, right? Like, of course I should. So I set up a test drive for a Model Y. And I got there. The Model Y was in big demand, and it wasn't ready. So the salesperson there, very nice young man, I think his name was Mike, super nice, great, just really good at what he did, said, hey, why don't you take this 3P out for a few minutes and have some fun with that, and then come back and the Y should be ready. And I was like, well, why not? So I went and wrecked the tires on a Performance,
Did you just do it in the parking lot, like several donuts? You just
No.
just
In
lit
fact,
them up right there?
and I don't want to go like too far in the weeds, so stop me if I do. But so this area right behind my house used to be Carlsbad Raceway, which was one of the original like old days motocross tracks. Okay, it was this huge motocross track surrounded by tomato fields. Now it's all light industrial buildings, surrounded by light industrial buildings. So because of COVID-19, these light industrial buildings are for the most part ghost towns. And the roads that wind through them happen to be very wide, very unoccupied. And I want to tell you, if you want to wreck the tires on a 3P, perfect. So yeah, I did. I was actually blown away. I had not driven the performance version before, and was impressed. I mean, it has incredible acceleration, dangerous acceleration. Now, that's not. I'm not saying that there's lots of cars that do that. The Supra that I'm driving right now, probably you don't want to buy that for your 16-year-old. You know,
Was that in track mode or was that in just standard performance?
it was in standard sport mode.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
I didn't dig deep. I was just sort of, but it's super impressive.
Yeah.
Super impressive. Which of course kind of set me up for the Y, right? Now it was nice to be in a 3, same thing as a Y, right? A little bit bigger, but same software, same interior, just different size space. So it set me up for that really nicely. Of course, the acceleration was different, but I wasn't expecting that. The Y, I don't know. I mean, I think the review speaks for itself, which is to say, go watch it at youtube.com/whatdrivesus. And let me know. I was responding to comments there this afternoon, including one from Casey, whose comment I don't remember now. Casey, I'm sorry.
Yes. So I had asked, you turned off the
turned off the regen. Yes.
So I asked if you also would be opposed to the auto stop,
No.
not the radar one, but the where you let your foot off and then it pushes the brake for you.
I actually love regen and auto stop and all of that, whether it's Nissan Leaf's ProPilot Assist or whatever.
Mhm.
I just didn't want to drive initially that car in heavy regen in one pedal mode. I wanted to feel for the coasting, and that was really all that was. It really,
Okay.
I probably could have edited that out of the video, but
Okay.
it was also the point of, while the regen's on, how do I turn it off?
Not easily.
Not easily.
They
And
want
this
it
is
on for fuel efficiency.
well, and this is a problem that I have in the Supra, by the way.
People keep moving shit on you.
Which is, where is this control, this dash that has one little touchscreen? And this is a touchscreen issue in every car. How deeply buried in the menus are important, or at least important to that particular driver, controls. And one of the things that I said in one of the responses to another comment on the review was that the thing that Tesla really reinforces is you have to do your homework. You have to spend some time in the car, sitting in the driveway, looking at buttons, setting it up, going through all the menus and knowing where that stuff is. Because if you don't, there's no button on the dash you can just slap at and hope to change. You're stuck.
Yeah, you better hope that you've got a voice command that you can figure out. But you did a good point, made a good point of that without like beating it to death in the reviews. Like, hey, I know this thing can do it. I don't know where it is. So I'm gonna go on. But
yeah, it was kind of evident with the rear-facing camera.
Yeah,
where
yeah.
you were having difficulty remembering. You knew you saw it previously, but you were having difficulty finding it when you wanted it at that particular point.
Yeah, I couldn't get rid of the little pop-up thing that was in front of it. I swiping left, swiping right, swiping down, and the damn thing wouldn't leave. Again, the more, so if you're familiar with these things, you don't have that problem. But it's not something you want to figure out while you're driving. And that's, again, doesn't apply just to Tesla. This isn't a slap at Tesla. This is every car, most every car with a touchscreen.
Yeah.
You've got to know.
Well, not even just a touchscreen. There are, lots of, like how do I adjust this on the seat or that on the mirror or whatever. All cars have different interfaces, and yeah, you should spend some time when the first time you're in a new car figuring those things out before you start driving. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, that's why I was so glad when that previous update, the holiday edition, where they added so many voice commands. I was a little disappointed that they didn't work at first, but they fixed that. I mean, you can open the glove box, you can turn on the wipers, it's all of that stuff that's like somebody realized, oh, this is a UI nightmare. Let's turn it on by voice.
Ever tried to turn on rear camera?
Yes.
Okay.
Open the glove box doesn't work on the legacy cars.
Right. Right.
But turn on the heated steering wheel does work on your car, even though you don't have a heated steering wheel. In Canada.
They just make you think you have it. So if you're thinking it, your hands get warm on the road.
It feels better.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
the placebo.
No, they've turned it on.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. So Russell, you had the I would argue that you kind of got spoiled by taking the Model 3P out for a spin first, and then got in the the Y, and felt that it was still spunky, as you put it, but you were not quite as impressed as, of course, the performance version of the Model 3, which is not surprising because the Model 3 is a faster car.
So.
And that was just a regular dual motor, right? Okay, sorry.
No clue.
Well, did it have?
There's no badging on the car.
Did it have black rims on the Model Y?
Yes.
Okay, so that was probably a performance then.
It was a long range. It was not a performance.
It was not a performance. Okay.
Yeah, it was not a performance. So here's the. I get that, but I want to assure you, I'm good at this.
Yeah.
And I didn't get out of the 3P expecting that in the Y.
Well, even if it had been a YP, it would, like you said, you wouldn't expect it to be the same because it's a SUV and everything.
It's different. But Mark, it's a very legitimate point. There's a few times when I said, and I felt like maybe using the word spunky, I was trying to be like, I didn't mean to sound condescending. It's damn spunky. It's quick. It's fast. But it doesn't feel agile, and that's because it's a big, heavy car. So it's a powerful car, and it surges. It's got instant torque, and it goes like a bat out of hell. But it never feels light. And again, I want to say agile is really the word because it's so heavy. It's not a bad thing.
Like a classic American sports car.
I hated Corvettes in the 70s, so I don't know. You know what I mean?
People usually don't buy crossovers for a track car anyway.
Right. Yeah, and Tesla played into that. They didn't even give you track mode if you buy the performance kit on the Model Y.
for the Y. Yeah.
Isn't that kind of a ripoff?
I thought so.
Yeah, I mean, you're the guy that drag races in an X, so clear, I don't, again, I didn't mean, I wasn't trying to be condescending about that at all.
I wasn't suggesting you were. I was just.
You were too.
I was just kind of pointing out that you kind of took the top of the hill out first and then went down a level. And then, of course, you would be a little bit disappointed because you've already experienced the top end speed and handling of the car that you first got in.
When I was selling cars, they would always say, don't start with the one they want. Start with the one below the one they want. And then if they still want it, they can option up and they'll feel better. Versus if they get it and then you realize, oh, this is a little bit out of the budget, you try to take them back down, they just leave without buying a car because it doesn't give you what they want. It depends.
There's different sales strategies. Sometimes there's the knock it out of the park, and you want to give them the very best thing you've got, so they drive that, and everything else feels like cheap crap.
Yeah, exactly. And they're thinking, man, if I could just make that happen and get the top of the line, I would do it.
Assuming you don't scare the customer away by going, I just can't do that.
Yeah.
Again, Tesla could change the steering a little bit, and that would certainly help a little, with that heaviness feel. And there may very well be an adjustment in those screens where I can do that.
Yeah.
I didn't. It's a very short test drive period, and I just, kind of laid it out as I saw it.
Yeah.
What else did I do wrong? Come on.
So with taking the vehicle out for the spin, you had it for what, about 15 minutes?
Yes. Okay. Well, 17 minutes, but yeah.
Yeah. Who's counting? So they as you went out and drove it, you test drive a lot of vehicles. You have test driven, I would dare to say, hundreds of vehicles that are on the press loop. If it was your money and you were placing $50,000 plus on a vehicle, where in the scale did the Model Y come out?
So are you asking personally or professionally? Personally. Well, I mean, there's no hesitation. I want an electric car, and it would be one of the Teslas. Okay. As much as that may shock some of the viewers and listeners into impotence or whatever, I would go for the electric car. That is my bias, my predilection, my obsession, whatever. But again, in the review, I pointed out I just finished driving the Highlander hybrid, similar price, similar sort of concept ish, and professionally recommending one over the other really depends on that owner's desires. If you really needed a 3-row vehicle, obviously the Model Y, definitely right now and maybe in the future, it's not going to be so good for you. You're going to need something like the Highlander.
Really not sure what the third row is going to look like in that vehicle.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and it depends on what you want the third row for, right? If it's car seats or whatever, I'm sure that's plenty of room. If they're small, it all depends on what you want.
Good luck getting
small
to
humans,
them, right?
Yeah.
We put the kids in the
Another
back.
bonus.
Yeah, so they can't throw food at us.
Yeah, but I like the way that you laid that out in the review. You're like, hey, this is great if you're looking at it objectively, and if you're trying to do too much with it, like seats wise, or if you wanted the track mode, then you need to look at another vehicle.
Thank you. No, I tried to be fair. I mean, that's what I try to do at every reviews. And everybody who knows me knows my bias, knows that I would want the electric car. Hell yeah. Not even a hesitation. And that includes the Super that I'm driving, which is a blast. But would I rather have a 3 Performance or just a regular 3? Yeah. Yeah.
Mini E.
Because it's electric.
Yeah.
And what was the contactless test drive like? I've only gone out on a test drive with another Tesla representative. When you did this, was it pretty seamless? Besides the car not being ready when you got there.
Yeah, it was. Again, this is one of, I think it's the only sales and delivery center within about 60 or 70 miles. So there was a steady stream of people there to drive cars, to pick up cars. It was very well handled. Like I said, the sales advisor that I spoke with was super good, professional, asked me if I wanted to run down on the car and went over some stuff with me, and then was kind enough just to leave me alone. I honestly, props to Tesla for this contactless, no person in the passenger seat. And how nice is that to go on a test drive at a dealer and not have a chattering mouth in the passenger seat? And when I was wrecking the tires on the 3P, there were no witnesses. So, now, of course, they have.
You realize that Sentry mode is on the car too, right?
The
Tesla cam was recording away.
I want to tell you, just in my own inimitable fashion, I burned out on the driveway out of the Tesla and did a little power slide out into Poinsettia. So, I mean, that's the whole purpose of that car, though. You don't buy a 3P going, I'm never going to drive over 55 in the right lane in the freeway, right?
And then just put it in chill mode and leave it there forever.
Exactly. And there's nothing wrong with those people. But if you buy a 3P, you're going to wreck some tires. That's the whole point.
At least once.
How many tires have you been through on your X, Casey?
I am still on my original set of tires at almost 50,000 miles.
Wow.
Are they racing slicks?
Not yet. They are barely legal.
Wow, I'm shocked.
I was going to change them before the Rona, but now I don't got to drive anywhere.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. My poor motorcycle is just sitting there because, So, thanks you for your interest, though. I appreciate you guys caring about the video and checking it out.
No, it was interesting to watch. Certainly from the perspective of the contactless pickup, the single drive along, and your thoughts. Having the experience of hundreds of vehicles, it was interesting to hear what you thought specifically about the Model Y and how it related in its your chain of different vehicles that you've driven. It was. I want everybody in the audience and, of course, the panel here, I would love to know if you thought a 15-minute test drive and the observations that I developed in that time, if that was adequate to give you some important bit of information, or if it was really just sort of a wasted, you know what I mean? Like, whatever.
I felt it was better than many of the big publications out there that have touched that same car or its sister. I mean, you went through as many points as you could, and it was pretty neutral. I mean, some of them come out, they just dog it, or they miss key points, or they completely get it wrong. I'm like, why did you even waste the slot Let somebody else do it. But you did it great, especially given the amount of time they gave you.
I'll second that. Yep, it was a pretty fair review. You had a few criticisms. You had a few things you were bragging on. I think if you would have had more than 17 minutes, that you could have figured out the touchscreen stuff before you started going. But you were on the clock, so you had to go. But yeah, it was great.
Good thing it wasn't raining.
Yeah, the next person for the Y was there waiting for it when I left the parking lot. And one thing though, you guys are all Tesla owners. What, seriously? Those door handles are a joke. Okay,
I don't have door handles on my car.
I don't know why you think that.
Door handles are fucking abomination.
I love the door handles.
That's a weird mechanism.
That pivot and pull with one hand. I've gotten used to it so much where you're pushing with the thumb, it comes out, you're grabbing the other handle with your remaining fingers and pulling in one motion. Once you get it down pat, just like the touchscreen, I think you would enjoy it.
If you told me that my CyberTruck couldn't have my Model X door handles with the power doors all the way, and you gave me a
choice. Don't you say you wouldn't order it, Casey.
And you gave me a choice between the Model Y door handles, Model 3 door handles, and the Model S door handles that the prototype had, I would take those risky Model S door handles and hope they don't work.
I will take the mechanical ones any day because they will not fail.
They're the same thing underneath, really. It's just you're manually.
Yeah, I know, but you've got that extra motor that has to push the handle out. And that did fail on me on 2 of the 6 handles. Right?
That did fail on me on 2 of the 6 handles, but the other 4, it was the sensor that failed.
I'll take 100% of the handles working 100% of the time. Thank you very much.
I'll take a handle that actually has a handle. That's there all the time. That's not hidden.
There's a handle there. It's just like everybody else with the car.
I would drop one bag of groceries and I would beat that car senseless. Okay, I would drill a hole in the door and hang a piece of rope.
Oh my gosh!
With it that way.
You would Beverly Hillbilly it.
I would totally Beverly Hillbillies. I would Jed Clamp at that mother. Okay.
That would be a unique shot. That would be something for our Twitter feed. Definitely a photograph like that of a couple of ropes hanging out the side to eject the door. Yes, indeed. Speaking of Twitter, if you haven't already, please follow us through the week on our Twitter feed at The Tesla Life. You can also follow us on our Facebook feed, The Tesla Life #1, which Mr. Patrick Connor helps get those stories in place every week, and we appreciate that. And of course, if you're watching this video already, please give us a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe if you haven't already. It's free. What are you waiting for? And it helps us out. So help us out by clicking the thumbs up and subscribing to the show if you have not already. We would really appreciate that.
Speaking of jerry-rigged door handles, on the Model S, when the motors would fail, some people did tie like dental string or something so they couldn't pull them out. Most people, though, would just get in on the passenger side.
Well, that I guess that's something you could do, but until Russell does it, I'm going to wait so I can see what the result looks like.
You can have it open when you just walk up to it. You don't even have to touch it. Yeah, and then you can get in and step on the brake and it'll close. You don't have to touch it to close. So yeah, it's nice.
Well, speaking of what Russell wants to do his car, we've got a couple of photos kind of interesting from our Twitter feed here that we will share. And this, of course, is another version of the convertible Model 3. This is a professional company that does this. Newport Convertible Engineering performs these changes on vehicles that don't have a convertible option. So they took a Model 3 recently and provided a convertible top for it. And of course, you'll see a few additions. You've got like that roll bar in the center from the B pillars in place with the black rag top. But I don't know. It just for me,
never have a 4-door convertible.
For me, it just doesn't work. It doesn't. Yeah. It looks a little bit awkward. But you know what? If you want a convertible in a Model 3, or if you want to change, or you want to be unique, you can either go the pickup that we've seen previously, or you can do a convertible. Certainly, someone else has mapped it out for you, and it is possible. But for me, I think I'll keep my red 3 with the hardtop.
Oh, yes. So yeah, my other point was that Simone yours did it better. These would look better if they could find a solution for the doors. The convertibles don't have 4 doors, unless they're a Murano, and I think even the Murano was a 2-door when it was done by the factory.
Yeah, but again, variety is interesting. So we love to show this stuff, and it gives people ideas, lets them know what's possible, and what other people have done. So certainly I don't default them for that.
So which one looks better, the Model S that did this or this one?
I'd say the S looked a little better. Maybe it's because it's a little bit longer. It helps. But the cutoff on this at the end just doesn't rub me correct. Just doesn't look quite there. But
tell us what you think down below in the comments.
Yeah, exactly. Let us know. Would you ever get a new car that you bought turned into a convertible? Man, well, if Russell's going to drill holes in the door, who knows what he would do?
But yeah, with a convertible, at least you could just reach in and open it.
See, maybe rather than the rope thing, I should just cut the roof off.
Yeah, there you go. You're in San Diego. There's no point in having a roof, really, is it?
That's right. Yeah, Sweet. Up here in rainy Oregon, that's not going to fly, but you're fine in San Diego.
Our next story is something that's going to be happening shortly today. We, of course, have been waiting on Jay Leno's garage episode where he takes out the Cybertruck for a spin and punches it through the boring tunnel as well. And, of course, there's been releases that have come out from CNBC through the week with the little snippets of the conversation. They talk a little bit about the joke about sexy, the car, the S, the 3, the X, the Y, where that came from. And Jay makes a promise that he will never produce any electric cars if Elon stops telling or making jokes. So that was amusing. And, of course, there's a couple of other scenes where Elon is up on top of the vault cover on the Cybertruck. Showing that it can certainly support the weight of 100 plus pounds. So, that is coming out supposedly at 10 p.m. Pacific time, or is it Eastern time? I'm not sure.
My DVR is saying 10 p.m. Eastern.
Eastern, okay. So 10 p.m. Eastern, that's like 2 hours and a bit from when we're recording this. Cool. So that will be interesting to see as that debuts. So get ready. Hopefully, if you don't get CNBC, it'll come to YouTube shortly after.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing, since things are constantly changing, in one of the preview clips I saw for that, Musk was talking about how they're going to reduce the size to make it fit in a standard garage. And since that was recorded, he's already tweeted, nope, we're going to leave it this big size. We looked at reducing it, and it would compromise it too much, so it stays big.
Yeah. So build your garage for the size of your Cybertruck. Don't buy your house and then expect the Cybertruck to fit, because it's not going to fit in a standard garage, or standard, as they call it today, garage.
Yeah, and if you get one of those houses in a just big subdivision, make sure you spring for the extra long garage. Maybe 24 feet.
But the interesting part about that tweet was that they said they'll have a second truck for the tight world later. So that's sort of a new product announcement. I mean, maybe it's just
it's been mentioned previously, but you're right. It was mentioned again that he would be looking at a smaller version at some point. And also, of course, previously it was mentioned that the Cybertruck wasn't as big of a hit as they would like. They would design a traditional looking truck, which, of course, the Cybertruck has been a hit, according to all the reservations and the media hype about it. So that's probably not going to happen with the traditional-looking truck. But a smaller version certainly would be liked by many people. Just like the Ford has the
Ranger,
the 150 and the Ranger, right? Mm-hmm. It picks up both sides, the Ram and the Dakota. So you've got the Canyon and the Silverado. You've got all of these companies that have a full-size and a medium-sized duty truck. So
yeah, my question was, is that going to be a Cyber Light Or are they going to go ahead and did they already finish that beautiful one? And is it going to be that car they were originally going to release as a runner-up? Should this thing have failed?
Right. Yeah. Will it be cyber styled or not? Good question. And let's hear what you guys think, because I have no idea. Tell us down below.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think it's going to be? So since we're on this subject, I'm going to move a story up. Sandy Monroe of Monroe and Associates of Detroit area. He, of course, put together those videos that we've been talking about for a number of weeks, where they tore down the Model Y right down to the individual pieces of sheet metal and aluminum. And he has now embarked on CyberTruck episodes, where he's now analyzing what is coming from the actual display of the truck on stage, as well as photos have been taken and distributed by Tesla. And he's analyzing the exoskeleton, the material that it's going to be made from. Curiously enough, I didn't know about 30 times steel, which is not really 30 times steel. What that really is 300 or 300 steel. And the last zero, which is an X in Tesla's case, is because that is the formula of the actual steel. Nobody knows that it's a 303 or whatever it is. They're not telling you what the X is, which of course may be part of SpaceX's special steel that they put on their rockets. It could be something different based on the truck and what it's going to be, or what the exoskeleton has to be able to support. There's a reason why that's 30X as opposed to 30 times, which is what I thought it was originally.
Yeah, so that is marketing.
Is marketing, or is it because they don't know
mystery
yet? Like,
oh, come on, they know.
I think he's told us what the rocket uses, but like if they don't know what they're going to put in there, I mean, it's not a matter of keeping it a secret from the competitors. They're not going to get a truck out in time with stainless steel to combat with that.
No, they won't.
But it keeps the punters guessing, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If you just said it's 316, it'd be like, oh, 316. Yeah, that's all over the place. We get that.
Yeah. But
and
of course, Sandy talks about if the truck is a success as they think it will be, there's going to be a ton of steel to be gotten. They're going to have to pull in the steel at a remarkable rate.
Could be that.
Which
so they don't have a run on the price.
Yeah. So that it could be they don't want to let the market know what they're going to be after or what they're going to be bidding on. So it could be that part too. But what was interesting was that Sandy talks about the exoskeleton. Of course, Sandy has tore down other pickups before. One of the ones he's done recently was the Honda Ridgeline, and he talks about the difference of the between the exoskeleton and the inner skeleton with panels hung on the actual Ridgeline. Talks a little bit about the Ford, the GM, and the Ram, how they are different. Again, I'm finding the videos very interesting and learning a few tidbits here and there. But what did you guys think? Have you seen those videos or that video specifically?
Let Russell go first.
No, please. I'll wait.
So I thought it was pretty interesting. Like he was going over, some techniques they might use to make this thing, and how he suspects it would work if it goes as advertised. And then Russell said I was being a fanboy.
I did.
So I've watched about half of it. I didn't have time to finish it, but it's not like his other videos where he's doing a teardown and telling you what he found. This is different. He is doing, like Mark said, looking at what Tesla has released and then comparing that to what he knows and contrasting those and talking about where they're radically different and how it's a departure from what's been done in the past. And in other ways where it's similar to what's been done in the past, like the DeLorean. So he has a YouTube channel now. He needs content for it. I don't blame him for doing this. I thought it was interesting. And he is still bringing his expertise and experience to that. And so I thought it was, from what I've seen so far, I thought it was good.
Yeah, I didn't realize that the aluminum tore up the molds like it does.
Yeah, that's something different different than steel. Mr. Frost, what did you think?
I thought it was pathetic. I mean, he's an engineer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Engineers famously, whether or not it's accurate or not, deal with real world problems and solutions to real world problems. Okay, what is the CyberTruck? It is not a real world thing. There's one prototype.
Mm-hmm.
It was handmade. We don't know what of or whatever. So Sandy has some pictures of it, and he's speculating about what it might be. That's not engineering. That's marketing.
There is speculation going on, but you know that his group has ordered 5 of them, so they will tear one down eventually when it gets there.
Right, but he's got the video up today.
He's trying to show us different features that he believes Tesla will employ or not employ based on their selections.
Hey, I get it.
Right, based on his experience.
Yeah, it's like a thought experiment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like Schrodinger's cat.
Yeah, exactly like that.
No Cybertrucks were killed in the making of this video.
I like to actually think of the Cybertruck as like Schrodinger's cat. Does it exist? Does it not exist? It's a cloud of possibilities right now. And until it actually hits the market, we won't know what it is or what's in it. So speculating about it is fun and it's exciting and it's good marketing. And cheers to Monroe and Associates for adding fodder to their YouTube channel. But it would be like me reviewing cars I've never driven.
Well, one of the things he talked about in depth, which he knows about, is the paint department.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked about how the Cybertruck is not going to have paint and what type of costs and capital will be saved by not having a paint department. Now, obviously, we knew if you don't have an entire department that's making a vehicle, you're going to save some money. But, $500 million is a number that I was not familiar with for a paint department.
It's made up, though. It's made up.
It's made up based on his experience working with other OEMs.
And he worked at Ford as a
DeLorean.
So
I'm not questioning Sandy Monroe's judgment or his experience. What I'm saying is he doesn't know what the steel is because Tesla hasn't even released what the steel is. If he said it's 304, it's 316, it's whatever, it's W1, then his knowledge and experience would be super valuable. And he'd say, this is going to be chemically resistant and it's not going to rust and it's not going to oxidize. But he doesn't know that. He knows
but being
it's
a 30 whatever steel would still give it certain properties in the family, even if you don't know which one it is, right?
And we still know it's not going to be painted.
Totally different. I really want to stress that. Totally different. The difference between 304 and 316, for instance, just 2 numbers I know, is huge. And whether or not it's painted could be a point. But what I'm saying is this is not useful information being presented as useful. And from that perspective, I didn't.
It is not as solid information, of course, than what happened with the Model Y, because he had a subject that he actually took apart bolt by bolt.
Right.
I agree.
I think he made that clear. And how many times do we hear or see articles about concept vehicles or even discuss them? And this is not just a concept. This is actually production intent. I mean, there's going to be changes, obviously. But Tesla doesn't just make something, do a big release, and then not deliver, right? So they put the Cybertruck out. They got reservations. They're going to build a factory for it somewhere, Austin, Tulsa, wherever. And it's going to be real. Sometime in 2021, you'll be able to see them on the road.
Yeah, because like the first 4 vehicles, they did the same thing. Like we were like what might be in it? The Model Y, will it have a single 48-volt rail, or is it going to be traditional? And then a bunch of people say it's never going to exist. It's fake.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the naysayers, I'm not listening. You say there's never going to be a Cybertruck. It's not real. It's all fake. Oh, come on. That just doesn't fly.
I understand some of what Russell's saying now, but I don't see the harm in a thought experiment from somebody who could make it work if put in charge of it.
If he was called upon to do so.
Right.
I think the main harm is to himself.
Maybe.
I think the main harm is to himself and to his reputation as an engineer and as somebody who physically takes vehicles apart, uses his knowledge and
Well,
Just as a
I know
thought
that
experiment.
Sandy, even with the Model Y, was extrapolating information before he got into the depths of the car, and
Like
he
the
corrected himself when he got partially there. When he took something apart and it wasn't what he suspected, he certainly commented on those things, and I'm sure that will happen with the Cybertruck as well. But we will see.
What I think might be interesting is if he comes back later with the real trucks and says, "Hey, remember when I said this?" And he plays back on the clip. This is what I said it might be, and then it's nothing like that, or it's exactly what I said.
Yeah.
I just want to ask the audience, how drunk are you right now?
Yes.
Cheers.
I'm about 8 beers in, Russell.
Well, we've kind of ran over. We're just about an hour now, so I think we'll close it down. We did have a couple of other stories. I'll just quickly mention there was a price drop that happened overnight.
Yeah.
All vehicles in North America. So Tesla vehicles, the S, the X, even the 3, even the SR Plus had a drop in price.
But not the Model Y.
If you have ordered something, you may want to look at what the new price is and make a determination as to whether or not you would like to cancel your current order and order it again, which is Tesla is famous for. That's how you get there. But keep in mind, you may lose some of the other options that you got. I know someone personally that ordered an X. Got free supercharging for life, but if they cancel their order and get that extra $5,000 back, they lose the supercharging for life. So you may have to make a decision based on your particular situation.
And I know somebody who ordered a Model Y and changed the wheels and lost their supercharging price, or not their supercharging, lost their full self-driving price.
Yeah.
So
keep,
be careful.
Keep that in mind. And as we always say in the show, if you get to the point where you feel that is the car for you, pull the trigger at that point, because you know what? Just like last night, things change in an instant.
Not always in your favor either.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
but if you were willing to pay that price and you were getting something you loved, no regrets, man. Just move on.
You got what you paid for.
Very good. And with that, some shout-outs. Mr. Frost, do you have a shout-out? I bet you do. I bet you have at least one shout-out.
What
Exactly.
drives us?
I do this little thing called What Drives Us. It's at youtube.com/What Drives Us. We do a weekly show, which we're going to do in about an hour. And oddly enough, these three folks are on that show too, as well as other people. So please do check it out. Thank you very much for watching the Model Y. I will enjoy reading your comments, whether you like the review or not. Please leave some comments and tell me if you thought it was valid. Can I drive a car for 15 minutes and give you some valid perceptions? If not, I want to know, because I don't want to waste that time anymore. If so, then maybe that opens up some avenues for some other vehicles. Thank you.
15 minutes, no, but 17, I think you're good.
Extra 2. I knew it.
It's all about those 2 extra minutes. Absolutely. Mr. Connor, any shout-outs from you today, sir?
Sure. We'll plug my blog, carswithcords.net, and I have that Project Dojo up there. And I also have one about the 2020 decade and how I think that's going to play out for EVs, and that one's coming soon. There you go. I'm also with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find us at oeva.org. And we're doing our meetings virtually now. We get to hang out in Zoom and chat with each other.
And if you want to join Patrick's meeting, even though you're not in Oregon, get on their mailing list, and then you can join the virtual meeting as well.
That's true. Yep.
Very good. Mr. Green, any shout-outs from you today?
Yes, I mentioned I did finish a firmware review, and people may ask, how can you make a 30-minute video on a point upgrade system software? I can, and I also make sure to give you chapters. So if there's something in particular you want to see in each firmware, because I do more than just, oh, there it is, oh, look, video, and I put it up. I go in and I try to show you what's changed and find the hidden things like, yeah, everybody knew this time about the pedestrians are animated now. But you might not have known that the Smart Summon has been tweaked some more, or that the autopilot is now better at being cut off by other cars. It's not as road ragey as I would be. It used to typically, somebody would cut it off, it would try to run them through. And it doesn't do that anymore.
Yep, the Mad Casey mode is coming eventually.
So you can find that at youtube.com/Casey Green. That's KACEYGREEN.
Very good. Very good. Well, with that, if you haven't pressed the like button yet, what are you waiting for? Do that. Give us a subscribe if you haven't already, and follow us through the week on Twitter and on Facebook. And until next week, where we will find out what is going on in the Tesla life. Thank you, Leno. Mr.
Goldie
Moon, for the music. Thanks so much. Everyone have yourselves a safe week.
Stay safe, stay charged.